to the thefogvlog.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Mixer Review. And first of all, I just want to thank everybody that's always here week after week. And for the people that are joining us now in chat, I think it's this way in chat, thank you very much. So if you've clicked on this, you know we're going to be talking about SteamOn. You know, I've done a little bit of checking. I think SteamOn has got his own YouTube channel called, it's Steam Space On. His ATF, and I'll pop a link in the chat now. His ATF is SteamOn without any, spaces or dashes in between. But had fun looking through his profile. He's got a big body of work. He's got about 4 pages of work. He explores through a combination of desserty treats or puddings, as well as some fruity mixes as well. So please go and check that out, guys. Nice full body of work. But what I'm going to be talking about first today, actually, let me quickly just introduce the hosts on the show. Dietz, you want to say hello to everyone?
Hello, everyone. It's Dietz, or Dietzenstein.
And
hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. Really, as Stu mentioned, the guys always our diehard people in chat. Thank you very much. We really appreciate the support and views. And just fun in general in chat, as always. So, yes, thanks for being here.
And the Richard.
Hello, everyone. I'm the scathing one that never has anything good to say. Gives everybody's recipes bad reviews, except when I don't. I think I'm quite generous, but nobody else seems to think so. So the hell with that.
Yeah, cool, man. So, of course, I hope we've got SteamOn here in chat, but if we don't, I'll make sure that this video gets to him, right? Go check out his YouTube channel. I'll put a link in this video description. Go check out his ATF. I'll put a link in this video description as well. The first recipe that I want to talk about is a cereal milk base. Now, I'm on this whole layer thing or whole base thing right now, and it's a journey of mine that I'm going through right now, and it's quite fun. It challenges you a bit because when you're tasting a complete recipe, you're tasting elements of the entire thing, right? You're tasting for instance, a berry or fruit at the top and then a cream at the middle. But when you're looking at the base on its own, it becomes a lot more difficult, right? To pick out what you like or what you dislike about it. And it challenges your palate to think a little bit more, zoomed in, if that makes any sense. So let's quickly go to the description. This is my beloved milk base for cereals that I mix privately for myself. Feel free to throw your favorite cereal ingredients at it and put your spin into your own vibe. Obviously, I'm a Cereal 27 fanatic, but there's tons of other options out. Let me know what you come up with. So very cool of him to do that. We're doing the same thing with layers now. And, this is exactly the same sort of, wavelength as what SteamOn has done here. But this recipe is 0.5 LA cream cheese icing, 2% OOO cream milky undertone, 1% Flavor West hazelnut, 1.2% FA meringue. So I'm not going to go on about the cereal milk too long, but what I did find here is that this mix, I'm just going to give you my experience of what I found with this base and, how I think you can use it. And then, you guys can do with that information what you want. But I found the mix inherently sweet, okay, which is a good thing. So you might not need to bang in extra sweetener for this. I think that sweetness comes from 3 places: FA meringue, FW hazelnut, and creamy milky undertone. I've single flavor tested all of those, and those inherently all have sweetness to them. So that adds to an overall nice sweet milk. Okay, I did find this mix somewhat smooth with a little bit of body. So just keep that in mind. Whatever you mix this with, it might need a little bit more body when you're using this. So you might want to consider fluffing this out with a little bit of cheesecake or marshmallow, just to bring a smidge more weight to the party. I think the only aspect that I personally, thought of, but this is probably because, I'm one of those guys that when I eat cereal, I sort of, drown my cereal with milk. I really like that, a milky cereal. So that's kind of what my expectation was, and that's not potentially what SteamOn wanted to create over here. But when I think of a milk base for cereal, I want that milk to be rather prominent, right? Which I didn't find here. It wasn't that prominent, but it was definitely there. It's like a low-fat milk base. That's my experience with this. Overall, this was authentic cereal milk, and I think it's extremely awesome that SteamOn has put this out there for everyone to go and use. So yeah, 100% very cool. First bump for SteamOn. Richard?
Right. In considering Steam's recipes, I had a look through and I noticed that he has quite a number that use TFA pistachio. This for me is it's a very interesting ingredient. I find that I can't take it in great quantities. I can't vape a pistachio vape all day long because that nutty aftertaste gets to me after a while, but it is a flavor that I enjoy in small doses, which is fine because I change juice about 20-30 times a day anyway. I only vape stuff for about 15 minutes at a time. So I thought I'd try 2 of his TFA pistachio recipes and just weigh them up against each other and see if either of these is going to make it into my rotation. The first one I started off with was Nobleman. Let's just go through the recipe quickly. It's 0.25% of TFA Kentucky bourbon, 3% of TFA pistachio, 3% of TFA RY4 double, 3% cap sugar cookie, 2% cap vanilla custard, and 1.5% of TFA vanilla swirl. So this is a pretty simple recipe. It's got staple concentrates. Most people should have the flavors for this, so it's a recipe that most people will be able to mix up. He describes it as pistachio pudding with caramel, vanilla, and cookie crumble notes, which sounded very appealing to me. And off the taste, what I'm getting is a prominent pistachio note, which I would expect with 3% TFA pistachio. I've seen it used lower than that and still come through strongly, so 3% is ample for that. And then it's backed up by a surprisingly prominent caramel and vanilla. This is where that RY4 double comes in, and that for me is the magic ingredient in here. It's one of Matthew Topolsky's favorite flavor concentrates, and I think the reason for that is that it works with almost everything. There are a lot of mixes where a little bit of RY4 double is going to give you a really good and interesting note in there. I have to say, more pudding than cookie crumble. I'm not one of those people that gets a discrete cooking note from cap sugar cookie. It gives me a sort of sweet density, fine grained density to a mix, but it doesn't really register that clearly as a cookie for me. We've got the 2% cap vanilla custard and the 1.5% vanilla swirl in there, which are going to mix with the sugar cookie and give that kind of instant pudding note to the mix, and that's what I'm picking up more than a cookie crumble. It's a good solid texture. It's not silky smooth, but it doesn't need to be. I quite like having that little bit of texture in there rather than just that absolute velvety smoothness that you tend to get with custards and things like vanilla swirl. That caramel from the RY4, as well as that sort of dirty tobacco note, is working magic in here. The caramel works very well with the pistachio. It seems to round out the pistachio nicely. That dirty tobacco note is kind of blending in with the vanilla custard and the vanilla swirl, which are both quite sort of bland vanilla flavors. And it's just adding interest and earthiness and pushing that otherwise fairly bland base just into slightly more interesting territory. I think the bourbon also helps. It doesn't add for me a distinctly bourbon edge to it, but it does add a little bit of warmth and also lends a little bit of bite again to that pudding base that the pistachio is resting on top of. As I expected, the pistachio does linger. I find this with pistachio, it's not so prominent when you vape, but it stays on the palate, and up to 25-30 seconds after you've exhaled, you do get that clinging, nutty pistachio nut that sort of coats the inside of your mouth, which is one of the reasons I can't vape pistachio all day long. But I think this has been well blended. It's finely mixed. I'm getting that nice balanced note between the caramel in the RY4 and the pistachio note itself as the kind of top note. I'm getting a well-textured vanilla pudding base underneath that. It hangs together well. There's a little bit of separation between the pistachio and the caramel top notes, and then that vanilla note, but it does hang together very nicely as a whole. It doesn't have sweetening. It doesn't need it. I think the flavors are sweet enough on their own, although I think if you favor really sweet vapes and you wanted to add a little bit of capsule sweet to this, it wouldn't hurt it. So generally it fits the niche that I was looking for, which is as a tasty pistachio forward recipe that I can vape for 15 minutes to half an hour at a time, then put away so that pistachio lingering note doesn't become overbearing. But then within a couple of hours, I'm ready to hit it again. So for that, it's tasty, it's well blended. The ingredients have been well chosen. They do what they're supposed to do. For that, I'll definitely give it a tip of the banger and conclude that this will make it into my rotation. So nice one, SteamOn. Dietz, what did you mix?
Okay, so for my first one, I mixed up something out of my normal wheelhouse, and that was Crimson Cream. Now, Crimson Cream is a strawberry and cream. The recipe's name is actually called Crimson Cream, a better strawberry and cream. So there's not much in terms of his initial description, where it basically says, upon returning from the treatment center, I found this bottle I had been steeping for 2 weeks. Couldn't think of anything to improve on it, so I decided to share it. Sweet, creamy, and enjoyable. That is a very good description, that last part. It's sweet, it's creamy, and it is enjoyable. So I'm just going to go further into his notes here, where he says the Albi Vanilla Ice Cream, a wonderful ice cream offering. No pepper notes present, may appear high, but it's worth mentioning I found that ice cream flavor lacks presence at lower percentages. The Inawera Shisha Strawberry and TFA Strawberry Ripe, these two shoulder the bulk of the strawberry note. The FA Strawberry Red Touch jams up the strawberries into a velvety jelly, perfect for ice cream. TFA Dragon Fruit really pushes the strawberry in there. And then he says the Inawera Shisha Vanilla, a lovely vanilla offering that keeps the vanilla note from Albi Vanilla Ice Cream from being too rudimentary. The FLV cream provides a little lift in terms of density to Albi's ice cream, but also emulsifies the vanilla and rounds off the cream. The can substitute with FA Vienna cream or FA cream fresh, although of course it won't be the same effect. Then with sweetener, he recommends sweetener, and I like that. So the recipe contains 0.5% FLV cream, 0.5% TPA dragon fruit, 0.5% FA Red Touch strawberry, 2% Inuera Shisha Strawberry, 1% Inuera Shisha Vanilla, 3% TPA Strawberry Ripe, 1% TPA Sweetener, and 5.5% Albi Vanilla Ice Cream. So the first thing for me when I read this recipe was the Albi Vanilla Ice Cream looks a bit high. So I agree with his notes, but I have to say I really enjoy this strawberry cream. It is a very dense and velvety strawberry ice cream with the attention on the cream, but balances the strawberry very well at the same time. It's a really delicious ice cream in my opinion. The ice cream, the cream and the vanilla is really well balanced, complementing each other and boosting the profiles that lack in each other in terms of texture, profile and taste. The strawberry trio works very well too, and it doesn't get lost in the cream after a few days steep like it normally happens with the strawberry and cream. And then on top of that trio, the combination of the dragon fruit just rounds off the strawberry so well. I always find that for me, for my taste personally, it is vital to add a dragon fruit into a strawberry mix, specifically because of the way it pops or accentuates the strawberries. It just creates a more vibrant or noticeable strawberry for me. I also know that a lot of people do not like the dragon fruit, but in my case, this works perfectly. It's not used very high. It's not really noticeable in a way of other creams or strawberry milks using dragon fruit that I have tasted, like some of the God milks, which I actually enjoy. I enjoy the high percentage dragon fruit. Let me just put that out there. In this case, it was used low and I enjoyed it a lot. It's just a really good strawberry ice cream, or strawberry cream, which I didn't expect because it's generally not my taste. But it's a good juice that I can't really fault on anything. The strawberries don't fade away after the steep. In fact, from the recommended steep, it's as noticeable as it was to me a day after mixing it. So it's important to me that if you have strawberries and cream, that the strawberries maintain its profile throughout the mix, which it does really well here. The creams, as I've mentioned, it's balanced very well. You get that perfect vanilla from the combination of the shisha vanilla and the Albi vanilla ice cream. And the combination of these specific strawberries with this vanilla it works very well. I would say the only thing I thought about if I was to maybe try and improve this in any way is just to add a little bit of coolant, because I think it would work well. It's not an ice cream, and I think therefore it does not contain the WS, but I like a little bit of WS when it comes to something like this, maybe at a 0.25%. All in all, it's a good recipe, very enjoyable strawberry cream, and it maintains throughout the steep. The strawberries profile stays, and the vanilla ice cream is definitely the cream and the strawberries balance, and they go through the steep, complementing each other very well. So all in all, for me, it's a very good strawberry cream. One of the best ones or better ones that I have tasted. Not that I mix a lot of the strawberry creams or creams in general, but this was a good one. And for me, definitely a fist bump for this one. So well done on that one. Theo, what was your next one?
So, yeah, I looking through SteamOn's recipes, it was the most frustrating thing ever because I found so many recipes that I could just almost mix up, missing maybe one flavor here, one flavor there. So I think we've got a similar palette because we've got most of the same flavors. I just missed here and there. I missed one flavor in these recipes. But then I looked at, everybody knows I'm always down for cheesecake. I found cheesecake. This recipe is 0.25 FLV blueberry muffin, 3% TFA cheesecake graham crust, 1.5% TFA graham cracker clear, 1.75 TFA huckleberry, 3% cap New York cheesecake, 0.25% FLV strawberry, 0.5% cap super sweet, and 2% cap sweet cream. So I literally just extracted the cheesecake layer out of this, or base, and he also says in his recipe which of the flavors specifically is the cheesecake layer. and those are cheesecake graham crust, TFA graham cracker clear, New York cheesecake cap, and then cap sweet cream. Okay, so this was interesting for me. I've tried the combination of cheesecake graham crust with New York cheesecake, and yeah, it's trial and tested. It's a thing, people use it, but I haven't tried it in combination with sweet cream. So what he specifically says there is the sweet cream is the filling, right? And you know, with the combination of cheesecake graham crust and New York cheesecake, yeah, I think you need to buff out that filling a little bit, and so he's used sweet cream here. And my notes here is so yeah, this was a little bit different with that sweet cream cap used as a filling. Also, the graham cracker clear was added to further enhance the graham cracker base of this cheesecake and just add a little bit more depth to the whole mix. So my opinion on this was that it was a massive success. In my opinion, it's a delicious, smooth and extra smooth, thick, creamy cheesecake with a noticeable graham base. It's all there, and this I feel is straight up progress right here. Now, if I'm going to compare it with another layer that I know is very popular, it's Alfred Pudding's Cheesecake Trinity. And you know, my thoughts on this here is I really like Alfred Pudding's cheesecake. The only thing different here is there's a little bit more body in this one. It's also got, in this one, meaning in SteamOn's version, it also has a little bit more of a noticeable graham cracker base to it. So I feel that in that regard, I feel that this is a better layer, right? If you want that graham cracker. If you don't want it, then of course Alfred Pudding's is the one to go for. But yeah, 100%, this is a banger for me. I think what you need to do with this cheesecake layer is you need to extract it here from your hakya cheesecake and make it a layer on its own and put it out there for people to use, like you did with your cereal milk base. You know, pretty much exactly the same thing. Thank you very much for this. I'm going to be using this in a recipe for sure, and I'll tag you in it. Thank you very much, Richard.
Right, my second mix in the pistachio realm was One Smart Cookies, which he describes as warm, buttery pistachio accompanied with nutty company crisp cookies guaranteed to melt in your mouth. Now, I don't know, I'm not sure what company crisp cookies are, but that's the description. Let's look over the recipe briefly. It's 1.5% Flavor West Butterscotch Natural, 1% TFA Cheesecake Graham Crust, 2% FA Cookie, 0.75% of Cream Fresh, FA Cream Fresh, 0.5% each of Flavor West Hazelnut and FA Meringue, 3.25% TFA Pistachio as the star of the mix, 0.5% Cap Super Sweet, 0.5% of FA Vanilla Tahiti, and 1% of FA Vienna Cream. It's a 10 recipe mix, but most of these are staple concentrates. I would imagine some people might not have Vanilla Tahiti or might not have FW Butterscotch Natural, but for all the rest of the flavors, they should be in virtually any DIY stash. So again, it's a broad appeal recipe that a lot of people will be able to mix up. Getting to the mix itself, I found that from the description, the melt in the mouth was very accurate. In fact, for me, probably so accurate that it reads more as a cookie that's already been dipped in milk and it just basically falls apart in your mouth the moment that you bite into it. There are several quite creamy ingredients there to moisten the bakery, which comes almost exclusively from the FA cookie, and then maybe with a little bit of TFA cheesecake graham crust, which in itself is quite creamy. But we then have the vanilla Tahiti, the Vienna cream, the cream fresh, which all sort of add to that creamy and not quite so dry bakery base. So it's not a very crunchy bakery. It's more creamy. I also found that it wasn't so much buttery as just creamy on its own. I thought briefly that one might be able to add something like TFA butter or Cap Golden butter to this, but I think because those are also both fairly moist flavors, my feeling is that it would just push a little bit over to the edge and would then almost like be cookies, dunked in a milkshake rather than just a melt in your mouth cookie. I'm not the description warm buttery pistachio accompanied with crisp cookies. I'm getting more just plain pistachio cookies where the pistachio chunks are sort of baked into the cookie from the get-go, which I like. So that's not a criticism at all. It's just a difference that my palate is having from how the recipe is described. I'm getting the same prominent pistachio notes that I got in the previous recipe, the nobleman. That pistachio is very much front and center. The sweetness notes, the butterscotch of the FW Butterscotch Natural as opposed to the caramel from the RY4 Double in the previous recipe. This one, that sweet note from the butterscotch is a little bit less prominent. So the pistachio stands out more on its own. And then also the vanilla I found to be not quite as prominent in this one. There's no vanilla swirl, there's no vanilla custard. Instead, that vanilla is coming mainly from the FA Vanilla Tahiti and a little bit from the Vienna cream as well. So the vanilla is more downplayed. What I did find, though, is that the pistachio is a more rounded sort of note. I expect that is coming from just those very light accent notes of the FW hazelnut, and then that slight almond note that's coming in from the FA Vanilla Tahiti. So you've got actually three nutty notes that are playing there. Admittedly, as very small accents, they're only 0.5% each, but it does seem to me to just soften that pistachio note slightly and just blend it into a slightly more rounded nut note, which I really like. I find this pistachio note to be more complex, more rounded, more blended than it was in the nobleman. But then on the other hand, even though this base is a lot more complex, uses a lot more ingredients than the nobleman did, I found it to be less complex. It doesn't have that RY4 double in there, which just adds interest on several different layers and accents. This makes the layer, the different aspects fit a lot easier together, like the creme fraiche and the Vienna, the hazelnut and the meringue together. So even though there's a lot of ingredients, the overall taste sensation, the savory sensation, is less complex than the previous recipe. So it's quite different from the nobleman. It's supposedly a bakery rather than a pudding. I found it runs more towards the cream side than the bakery side. It's a more straightforward base, supposed to be just a straight cookie base. The pistachio note, however, is a little bit more complex. It's a little bit more interesting than the pistachio note in the nobleman. So they're two quite similar recipes. They both have pistachio top note accented by a dark sweetness, butterscotch in this case, caramel in the previous case. So fairly similar recipes, fairly similar textural qualities, and I find them both appealing. They both use pistachio, which can be a difficult flavor in a way that I like, that I can vape for half an hour at a time with no ill effects. This recipe, the One Smart Cookie, is also slightly sweeter than the nobleman. That's probably due to the addition of the cap super sweet. I didn't add it up to the recommended 0.5%. I just put 2 drops for the 30 mils of juice that I mixed, which is plenty sweet enough for me. I even feel that I could maybe leave it out. I think it would still register okay for me without any super sweet in, but the super sweet certainly isn't hurting the mix. I don't like sweetener generally, and I don't mind that sucralose at all in this mix. It works fine for me, so that's fine. Overall, I slightly prefer the Nobleman, the previous recipe that I reviewed, simply because that RY4 double is such a magical ingredient. It's adding an edge for me that I'm not quite getting in this one, but there's certainly nothing wrong with this. I would probably, my palate, I'd probably like a little bit more texture, a little bit more crunch in that cookie rather than that moist melt in the mouth feel. But again, nothing wrong with it. The recipe is doing exactly what it says it's going to do. It's giving you a melt in the mouth cookie. So it achieves on that front, and it hangs together very well. Even though I slightly prefer the Nobleman, I'd also give this a tip. I think they're both worthy of a tip because they're both accomplished mixes. They use flavors very well together, and they achieve what they set out to achieve. So another tip from me, and another good recipe. Thanks, Steve. Dietz.
Okay, so my next and final one is You're the Zest, and that's definitely more in my wheelhouse. A berry lemonade. So the notes say, designed and formulated for drippers, this lemonade has been my go-to through the summer, re-releasing because it somehow got deleted from my catalog of public recipes. Recommend this to any lemonade fans out there. The Inuera cactus, typical reason for inclusion, beverage enhancing moisture. FA forest fruits can be subbed for Cap harvest berry. The ingredient contributes to the fruit note to contrast the lemonade. The FLV lemonade, country time sweet lemonade, keeping it around the 3% mark, avoids the throaty, sweet and enjoyable. The FA lemon Sicily adds some oomph to the overall lemonade note, and TPA vanilla swirl, a very enjoyable exhale component, light on the mouthfeel, bit of a texturizer, rounds off the berry notes. The FLV lime added for complexity contrasts nicely with the berries and lemon, and let it steam. Cap super sweet, kept low, not to overpower the rest of the mix. You can opt it out if you're trying to save on your coils and prefer a cleaner experience. So my notes I have on this. Actually, let me go into the amounts and concentrate used first. So he starts with the Inuera cactus at 0.25%. 2.5% FA forest fruits, 1.25 lemon Sicily, 3.25% FLV lemonade, 0.25% FLV lime, 0.25% Cap super sweet, and 1.25% vanilla swirl. So I've mixed a few lemonades, and this is quite a different one in terms of what I would normally expect from most lemonades. I mean, if you mix enough lemonades, you start getting a general idea. All of them has some kind of a similarity in them being it's a lemonade. But in this case, there's a few things in this recipe that makes it a little bit different for me, and I mixed various batches of this as well, and I'll explain why. The first note is the 1.25% TFA vanilla swirl was also something I found strange, specifically because it's a fruit beverage. And vanilla swirl at that percentage definitely leaves a distinct creamy note to the profile. So for me, when my experience and palate, if it's a beverage, it's a beverage, it's fruit. If it's a milk, it's a milk, or it's creamy. There's not really a in between for me. They never used to be. But I mean, actually that statement contradicts what most of the time fruit's a fruit. And then some stuff like honeydews and mangoes, I found that vanilla swirl works well. I actually picked the vanilla swirl and mango combo up from Theo's Bamango mix. And it works well with certain fruits. But specifically with berries and a lemonade isn't something I would expect to see that high, because in my mind it would kind of make a fruity lemonade something creamy. In this case, it really did not do what I expected it to do. Instead, it just blends everything and gives you this smooth, sweet, beautiful, very well-balanced sweet berry lemonade. But it's not really berry forward, and it's you know it's a lemonade, but it's not like the berry is dominating the profile. It's very well balanced. With this said, I have mixed it again because his note on the FA forest fruit says it can be subbed with Cap Harvestberry. I had Cap Harvestberry and was interested to see what the difference would be. And I must say, I prefer the FA forest fruits to the Cap Harvestberry. But I then mixed a third one because I recently found that FLV Berry Blend, to me personally and my taste, is better than forest fruits and it's better than Cap Harvestberry because Cap Harvestberry specifically, if you push the percentage, it starts getting earthy and it meddles with that berry note for me. And I wanted to see what Berry Blend does instead. And the Berry Blend does very well for this profile. I mean, it brings in a sweet or even a sweeter note to the mix without making it an oversweet or oversweetened lemonade. And at the same time, also without being a berry forward or berry main lemonade. It's very similar to the original recipe, the FA with the FA forest fruits in it, and the FA forest fruits is absolutely great. I've only mixed the other versions for sake of experimenting and to see what my taste ends up with. The lemonade profile is also really well done in this recipe, where I normally get with a lot of lemonades, either it's too light or it's too intense, leaving that throat raisers that you get a lot with many lemonades. In this case, it is definitely one of those country, as he puts it here, country time sweet lemonade. It is a very sweet and enjoyable soft lemonade without killing your throat. The lemon Sicily definitely pops that lemonade back to a vibrant lemonade that you would normally expect from a high percentage lemonade. In this case, the FLV lemonade was not used in a super crazy high percentage as you would normally expect, because there's three components to the lemonade profile, being the lemonade first, then the lemon Sicily to pop things and make that lemonade really noticeable, and then obviously the FLV lime has a massive part in that at 0.25%. The steep of 7 days, I would recommend sticking with that because of the FLV lime. I find the FLV lime is a bit sharp the first 3-4 days. Not that you're supposed to vape it before the steep date, but I mean, I always do. So that lemonade profile was really well put together using the combination of the Sicily, the lemonade, and the lime. It's very well balanced without cutting your throat. And I think a lot of that has to do with the combination of the vanilla swirl that he adds in here. It just smooths out what I would normally find with a lemonade to be a bit of a harsh profile, and it needs a longer steep to get that harshness down. And by the time it's steeped out, the flavor is not what you wanted it to be. In this case, it's balanced, it's strong, it maintains throughout the 7 day steep. The three of them definitely boost each other. The Inuera cactus adds, as he mentioned, that typical beverage, and I'm not picking up the actual cactus flavor, which is normally very distinct, but I mean, it's used very low here. So it works in the additive way, and on the steep, I don't really, actually, I don't get any cactus if you leave it the 7 days steep. I didn't really think or try to notice the cactus after the shake and vape and a few days after that, but I really took the notes on the recommended steep days, and there's no cactus there. It's a fruity juice. It's not very forward, very well balanced, very sweet and enjoyable lemonade. So what's different also with this one is because it's it's a very smooth lemonade without being flavorless or thin on flavor. So you can vape it for extended times, which I normally find with lemonades. I love lemonades and I love them to be very strong, and in some cases I like the throat hit. But it's something I vape in between things when I lose taste, like your vapor's tongue or something like that. Or in general, when I just get tired of one fruit I've been vaping, you shock everything up with the lemonade, and that's only for one tank I would vape a strong lemonade. In this case, this is a lemonade you can vape all day. So if you've mixed lemonades before and you felt that it's too harsh and it's not really something you can vape for extended periods, maybe mix this up or give this one a mix, and I'm sure you'll also find that it's a very easy to vape light or smooth lemonade for a lemonade without being light on the flavor. So it satisfies the sweet, the lemonade, the beverage is there, all in all, a very well put together lemonade, and I enjoyed it. It's one that I can vape on for longer periods than I would normally vape a lemonade, and that's what I also find interesting. So from me, a fist bump for this one, and I would give it a tip of the banger because of all the things that I noticed with this specific lemonade compared to other lemonades. Thank you. It was a very, very well put together lemonade.
Wow.
Very well done.
Thanks, Dietz.
That was a mouthful and a half.
You can cool down, dude. Have some water to drink. Thank you very much for all of that, dude. Just wanted to say for everybody, in chat, go just check in the description of this video. You'll find the mixologist link there for Facebook. Come and join us. There's a lot of people asking for help in that group. A lot of recipes and videos being shared. So come and check it out. I'd really appreciate it. You'll also find, everybody that associates or works with the TFV crew. You'll find their ATF profiles and, some of their one-shot lines to support them. But I just wanted to thank Fresho3 for letting us run this show after his, of course, everybody that's joined us in chat, and Daytime Frank, DIY Down Under, as well as channels that we, collaborate with. So yeah, thank you very much. I think after this show, the first show that should be up is Developed, and right after that, it is DIY Down Under, Mixing With Me Mates. So go and check out those channels as well. Thank you very much, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.